Albany. Here we come. Albany.
We come.
Albany.
Here we come.
Albany.
Here we come.
Can't stop.
Won't stop.
Won't stop.
Can't stop. Won't stop.
Can't stop.
Won't stop.
Yes, indeed. This case, you know, I bought some things with me. I brought my hitters with me too. Got my mom and my sister here by my side.
Right.
But what I bought really to remind me about how serious this case was and is and continues to be are these props. And I call props because for the people that read them, for the individuals that sucked it up, read the papers every day, watched the news every day, bought hook, line, and sinker what they saw, what they read, what they heard, they didn't realize that they were being tricked, that they were being duped. What they were doing to me and what they were doing to my family and what they do to all of us who are on those spike wheels of justice. What they were doing to us was causing us to be seen as something other than human.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not a human being, then anything and everything goes. They will do to you whatever they will. And it will be sanctioned by the people. In these articles that were really to set the scene, to set the stage for what they were going to do, we read things like the park joggers trail of blood.
Yep.
We read things like her friend couldn't recognize her, talking about the jogger, couldn't recognize her the day after the attack. The jogger took the stand. You know, the Central Park jogger case, 27 years ago, I was 15 years old. Wow. Wow. What they did to us. On May 1st, 1989, Donald Trump. I was going to say Donald Trump.
Same difference. Same thing. Speaking truth.
Donald Trump took out a full-page ad calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty for this case. What happened next was that people began to chime in. Media personalities chimed in. One in particular was a guy named Pat Buchanan.
Yep.
And he specifically said, we need to take the eldest one. We need to take Corey Wise. And we need to hang him from a tree in Central Park. We need to take the others and horsewhip them. Maybe the city's park will be safe again. Donald Trump took out a full-page ad in New York City's newspapers calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty. And people began to write my mother letters, write my family letters, write me letters that I hadn't seen until I came home from prison, because my mother shielded me from this. And all those times that my mother was talking about that she wanted people, she was encouraging families to come up and see your loved ones. My mother came up and saw me every single time I had a visit, without fail. At one point in time, we salute her for that. We salute. At one point in time, she started coming up so much, they said, listen, come up whenever you want. You know, I would be in the visiting room and it would be just me and my mom. It was the greatest thing. But they had published our names. They had published our phone numbers. They had published our addresses in New York City's newspapers. Within the first few weeks of this case happening, over 400 articles were being written about us. And they were tearing us apart. They were setting the stage to dehumanize us. They were setting the stage to murder us. They were setting the stage for us to become the modern day Scottsboro boys. And I submit that they were setting the stage for us to become modern day Emett Tills. Had they had their way, let me just read some of this to you. This one right here says, the Lord will punish Yusef for what he did to that poor defenseless girl. And you will also be punished for raising such an animal. He doesn't deserve to live, and neither do you. Yusef and family, there is no excuse for what you did to that woman. You deserve at least to die. Wow. But when you get to prison, I hope you were tortured like no other human being has been tortured. You are a waste and cannot possibly be one of God's children. Your son should be fried in oil. He and you suck. Your son should be castrated. And, well, I don't curse, but the word starts with an F asterisk asterisk K-E-D. Up the A asterisk asterisk. 24 hours a day for the rest of his life. They even sent my mom tarot cards in the mail. This joint says, special delivery. You're behind his grass. Well, it said something else, but you know, I know the word is in the Bible, but I'll just say behind for now. And what's so crazy is that they sent it again. They said, reminder. You're behind his grass. And guess what? The name of this organization was called the Lawnmowers. I think one of the most important letters, and I always save this letter for last when I share it. This is the only letter that has a date on it. This letter was written April 25th. This crime happened April 19th of 1989. This letter was written on the 25th day of April in 1989. This letter says, this letter is to let you know your name has been placed on the list of enemies of society by the Citizens Army, New York City branch. You made a decision when you became one of the pack that decided Central Park was your arena and decided to attack and violate honest citizens who happen to be in the park. So just remember that even 20 or 30 years from now, some people will never forget. And maybe the one time that you don't check your back is the one time someone might just be there to say hello. I live my life without fear. I live my life walking on faith. I live my life because when I was in the prison, I read a miraculous story in the Bible and in the Quran. Miraculous. In the Bible, the man's name was Joseph. And in the Quran, the man's name was Yusef. Peace be upon him. And as the story goes, this young man, the Quran gives a description of him. And it says that he was given half of the beauty that God gave in the world. And I'm just saying, I'm sharing that because I want you to understand what was going on. This young man was being approached by one of the ruler's wives. Come and be with me. But he feared God. And so she accused him of rape. You know, when I was growing up, it's so funny because in the 70s, people started changing, well, probably not just the 70s, but people started changing the children's names to more like powerful names and, you know, stuff like that, the Rashidas, you know, and so forth and so on. And my mama called me Yusef. And when people would ask me, what's your name? And I would say Yusef. They would say Joseph. And I would say Yusef. They would say Joseph. And they said it so much that finally I just said, once they said Joseph, I said, yep, that's close enough. But when I got to prison, I didn't know about these stories. This man went to jail for a crime he didn't commit. That crime was rape. This man was found to be innocent and came home from prison a free man. I read that and I had tremendous hope. See, the system that we live underneath doesn't just give you a 5 to 10 year prison sentence, 5 to 15 year prison sentence, or 1 to whatever year prison sentence. The system that we live under is called the criminal system of injustice. Because the system that we live under allows for a person, a human being, to go through a process that used to be called the correctional facilities, so that they were supposed to be returned back to society, corrected. But what happens? They're returned back to society a damaged person, damaged goods. Every friend they have looks at them funny. If they had children, they look at their fathers or their mothers funny, not understanding that this is the criminal system of injustice that we seek to change. We need a change that we can only be answers to. Because when I look out at the kaleidoscope of people in the audiences that I speak to, overwhelmingly it's black and brown folks. When I turn on the news and I listen to the next person that they just let out of prison who had football numbers, and they found out that this person was innocent, did 40-something years for a crime that they didn't commit. The sentence that they give you is not a jail time sentence that ends when you come home from prison. The sentence they give you is a jail time sentence that they want you to continue on the streets. It's a lifetime sentence. They gave me 5 to 10. I did 7 years. Came home from prison and was on parole for 3. Then they said, you know what? He's doing too good. Let's throw him on the Megan's list. And you know what? Let's put his name on the highest risk factor. And they called me a sexual predator. And they were just changing the laws back then. Those laws were being changed so that if you happen to be a level 3 sex offender, you were going to have to register for the rest of your life. Every single person, every single relationship that I was going to try to establish, I would have to, at some point, let this young lady know, I got something to tell you. Life for me ain't been no crystal steady. I would try to be poetic like that, because, you know, the next piece was a little bit harsh. It was a little rough. You know, I was married. Had 3 beautiful girls around me. And I got divorced. And these things happen. My mother encouraged me during those rough times. She said, don't worry. Somebody else is going to be there. And the strangest thing happened to me, and this is how life is. And I call it the hand of God, really. I was in my mother's office one day, and I decided to go take out the trash. Now, my mother's office was on 138th Street and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. So I took the trash out. And then something inside of me made me walk. And so I started walking downtown. And I walked all the way to 125th Street. And as I walked to 125th Street, I made a left. And I wound up in Starbucks. And I'm in Starbucks and a young lady is standing there and she looks at me and I look at her and I say, wow, who is this? How am I going to put my je ne sais quoi on? And so she looked at me and she said, they don't have no more soy milk. Can you believe that? I said, wow, she made the first step. She said something to me. I said, yeah, you know, this gentrification thing is real serious. You know. But I'm still trying to figure out, because, you know, in Islam, we're not supposed to look more than once. You know, it's like, first look